Brewster here with another episode of Chordplay, and this is the Chords of Queensryche. And of course, Queensryche, was a very popular band in the 80s and the early 90s. Guitar-wise, led by Chris DeGarmo and Michael Wilton. And those two guys together definitely created, some interesting, rock and kind of prog rock, guitar moments, because, it's a dual guitar band. And, rhythmically they would split off and play, separate parts. But then when you'd hear those parts played together, it just had this huge, massive sound, because you had two guitarists that were kind of spreading their ideas out, all over the guitar fretboard. Definitely back in the day, Queensryche was huge, and DeGarmo and Wilton, would appear in guitar magazines quite frequently. And I always liked their music. As soon as I heard, Operation Mindcrime and Empire, and I even, dug around like in their debut album and The Warning too. Phenomenal band. And it has, this very eclectic, sound and style, because you definitely have rock and hard rock and some kind of, metal influences, but then you have all this progressive influence too. And I can hear, traces of brush and all these different, textures in their music, mainly revolving around the chords. You'd hear all these kind of sustained, sus chords and extensions, with a clean tone, while, maybe DeGarmo might be playing clean chords and Wilton might be playing, like a dirty rhythm, or one of them might be playing, kind of stacked chords while the other one's playing some little intricate, melodic part or something. So they mesh their parts together really well. And it's a very interesting band, to kind of tap into and notice, because you can learn a lot about, layering parts. If you play in a two guitar band, or maybe you're recording, some guitar parts. And it's a good lesson in kind of learning how to split, guitar parts together. All right, with the intro, that was the song Take Hold of the Flame, which is from The Warning. And I know when I first heard that song, they used to play it on Headbangers Ball. They used to kind of just throw this clip from '84, which I think they were on tour in Japan. And it was a live, performance of the song. And they started to kind of add that to Headbangers Ball, like in the late 80s. And I'd never really heard the song before. And when I heard it, I was like, what in the world, is that? That's awesome. But it starts off with this A sus2. And then they're just kind of adding, that minor third in there, the C note. And then there you're basically going to move into an F major 7. And then right there you're going to hit an open G. And then play, kind of a G5 like that. And then you're also picking through, the high E open, the B string, and the G right there. And then you're going to do this little, it's kind of an F11 to a G. And then back to that A sus2. And then a little piece of C, and then a G over B. And then you're going to repeat all that again. So it has kind of a quirky rhythm too. You really have to watch, the timing. But then after that, it's going to finish with this A sus2. It kind of goes back to that F, and then it just slowly builds on that G power chord. Something like this. Really cool guitar part. So you're doing an A power chord and then adding the sus2. And then it's basically a C over G to an F power chord right there. And then right right there, they play the F power chord and then the D and the G string open, which would function as a G power chord. And then you go right back to that A again. Like that. And then the second time through, you're going to slide this, which is basically a B flat over F. And then slide that up to that C over G. And it's kind of answering that with this little melodic move, you know, with those double stops. Which Queensryche excels at that kind of interplay, you know, in their chords. Really cool song too. The next example is the song Waiting for 22, which is on Operation Mindcrime, and it's this short little, I mean, it's barely a minute long, kind of almost like an interlude or a little segue music. But there's some really cool chords, you know, hiding in this little kind of short guitar piece. And honestly, I wish that song were more like, you know, 3 or 4 minutes long. But it starts off with a B sus4 right here. And then you're going to basically move down to a G6 flat 5, which is right here. And then our old buddy, you know, E minor 9 right here. And then he starts playing around with this F major 6 flat 9, basically. Which he's kind of doing it with open strings right there, which is really cool. So you put all that together. This very moody atmosphere, and that's one thing I really like about Queensryche's music and a lot of prog rock. You know, it has this very spacious, huge atmospheric sound, and I love those chords. You know, it's beautiful. All right, for another example of those kind of clean, you know, picked chords, check out the verse to Jet City Woman, which that's one of my favorite Queensryche songs. And the verse part's really cool. There's a really interesting, you know, series of chords here. So the first chord, it's a G sharp minor right here, which is played, you know, with open strings. It's kind of an unusual way to play that. And then you're going to basically move down to a B5 over F sharp, and then an F flat 5. E5. So right there you've got this interesting, you know, series of 4 chords. Then you're going to repeat that again, the G sharp minor, and then you're going to repeat, you know, it's basically a B major 7 over F sharp, so it's a little different than the first time through because now you've got the 3rd fret on the G right there, and then basically a B5, and then it's going to basically resolve there to a C sharp sus2. Last time through he does this really cool alteration where it starts with the G sharp minor, and then you're basically going to move up to where you have this. So that would be a B sus2 over A sharp. And then you're going to flip those 2 fingers around, and now you have just basically a B sus2. And then it ends with a C sharp sus2. really reminds me of John Petrucci, you know, this little, that sounds like John big time. The next example is from the song I Don't Believe in Love, which is on Operation Mindcrime, which was a big hit, you know, for Queensryche. And the opening guitar part has this kind of melodic, you know, chordal, you know, statement, I guess. And Chris and Michael are kind of playing, you know, against each other. So DeGarmo's doing, you can see that's kind of like a D power chord. So there he's kind of, you know, moving the A to a G, and then it's kind of implying like D minor. And then right there, it's basically like a B flat over D. So it's a little stretchier because you're reaching up to grab that B flat there on the 11th fret. And then what I was doing there, I'm just grabbing C on the 8th fret there on the low E, and then the open D. And that was mimicking Michael's part, because Michael's basically just going between like a C power chord to a D. But I don't have 4 arms, you know, with a double neck, so I can't play both those parts at the same time. So I just basically consolidated that to this, you know, just to hear, you know, C move to D. So I'm just playing it that way just because I'm playing it by myself. If I had another guitarist here, you know, we could split those parts. But that's a really cool guitar part. And I really like how he moved, you know, to C, and then he basically added the sus4. And then he basically played a C over B flat, you know, which is a really cool chord. Really cool. The last example here is from the song Della Brown, which is from the album Empire. And honestly, I think this is my absolute favorite Queensryche song. And it wasn't a hit. I don't even know if they released, you know, like a video, or I don't think they released it as a single even. But it's such a cool song. There's great guitar work. It's real dreamy and kind of atmospheric. And the section we're going to look at here actually takes place during the solo. It's like the first solo, the chords behind the solo. And I believe it's Michael Wilton playing the lead, and then Chris is just kind of playing through these chords. So it starts off with an A7. So you're basically picking through A7 like that. And then that's going to follow with an A13, which is really cool. And then the A13 is going to relocate to the 5th fret here, and that's going to become A7 again. And then the A7 is going to move to a D11 over A. And then you're just going to basically pick C to a D power chord. Second time it's going to move from that A13 up to an A7 sus2, and then the A7 sus2 is going to basically resolve back to A7, and then basically a C over A to D over A. So that's a really cool, you know, pattern of chords. Really cool. Alright, that's going to wrap this look at the chords of Queensryche, so please leave some feedback and comments, and I'll be back with some more lessons and material very soon. Thank you.